Brothers run away from orphanage to an abandoned farm, and what they find there changes their lives. Marcus held his younger brother's hand tightly as they walked along the dirt road, their backpacks heavy on tired shoulders after 3 days on the run. The promise he had made to Tyler before leaving the orphanage echoed in his mind, and now, seeing the property in the distance, his heart raced with a mixture of hope and fear. When they finally spotted the farm where they had been born, Marcus felt his chest tighten. That place, which held the only happy memories of their childhood, was not abandoned as they had expected. Smoke rose from the chimney of the main house, and clothes were hanging on a line. Tyler tugged his sleeve, pointing to the figure of an elderly man who had appeared on the porch. "Mark, there's someone there," whispered Tyler, stopping in the middle of the road. "I know, Ty, but we have to try." Marcus adjusted his backpack strap and took a deep breath. "Remember what I told you about our mother? She worked here before we were born. Maybe that man remembers her." The two boys slowly approached the wooden gate. The man on the porch watched them suspiciously, his rough hands holding a walking stick. His white hair shone in the late afternoon sun, and deep wrinkles marked his stern face. "What do you want here?" shouted the old man, coming down the porch steps. "This is private property." Marcus swallowed hard and took a step forward, shielding Tyler behind him. "Sorry to bother you, sir. My name is Marcus Mitchell, and this is my brother Tyler. Our mother worked on this farm many years ago, and—" "Mitchell?" the man interrupted, stopping suddenly. His eyes narrowed, studying the boys' faces. "How do you know that name?" "Because it's our last name, sir. Our mother's name was Sarah Mitchell, and our father, David Mitchell. They worked here when we were babies." The old man fell silent for a long moment, the stick trembling in his hand. When he finally spoke, his voice was hoarse and bitter. "Sarah and David Mitchell left this farm 15 years ago, and I never want to hear those names spoken here again." He pointed to the road. "Get out of here immediately." "Please, sir." Marcus took another step forward, ignoring the threatening tone. "We have nowhere to go. We ran away from the orphanage because they were going to separate us. Ty is all I have left in the world. That's not my problem," the man retorted, but Marcus noticed a hesitation in his voice. "Go back to the orphanage before dark." "We can't go back." Tyler spoke for the first time, his voice small but determined. "They're going to put Mark in one home and me in another. I don't want to be away from my brother." The old man looked at Tyler, and for a moment his hardened expression wavered. The boy was holding Marcus's hand tightly, his eyes wide and scared, yet still defiant. "How do you know about this property?" asked the man, softer this time. "Our mother always told stories about the farm where she worked," explained Marcus. "She said it was the happiest place in her life. She said there was a big house with a porch, a red barn, and golden fields that stretched as far as the eye could see. And she—" the old man swallowed hard. "Did she talk about me?" Marcus hesitated. His only memories of his mother were fragmented, but he remembered her talking about a difficult boss, a man who carried deep sorrows. "She said the farm owner was a man who had lost a lot in life. That's why he was hard on everyone, but that deep down he had a good heart." The man recoiled as if he'd been slapped. His hands trembled, and he had to lean on his stick. "Lies," he murmured. I wasn't—" He stopped, unable to finish the sentence. "Sir, are you okay?" Tyler asked, concerned. The old man looked at the two boys, their clothes dirty from the journey, their faces thin from hunger, and something in his chest broke. It was impossible to deny the resemblance Tyler had to Sarah, especially the expressive eyes and the delicate way of tilting his head. "My name is Walter Harrison," he said finally. "And you can't stay here." "Just one night, Mr. Walter," Marcus pleaded. "We'll leave tomorrow morning. I promise we won't be any trouble." Walter looked at the sky where dark clouds were beginning to form. A storm was approaching, and even the hardest man couldn't make two children sleep in the rain. "One night," he grumbled. "You can sleep in the barn, but don't touch anything, and you leave first thing tomorrow." "Thank you, sir," Marcus smiled, tears of relief welling in his eyes. "We promise not to be any trouble." Walter nodded and turned back to the porch, but stopped at the door and looked back. There's a tap behind the barn. You can wash up there and—" He hesitated. "There's bread and cheese in the kitchen. I'll leave some on the porch. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The boys found the barn exactly as their mother had described. It was a sturdy structure with a high roof and wooden walls painted a red that had faded with time. Inside, there were bales of hay stacked, old farming tools, and a sweet smell of dried grain. "Mark, look at this cool place," Ty exclaimed, throwing his backpack on top of a bale. "It's just like in the movies we used to watch on the Orphanage TV. Marcus smiled, seeing his brother's excitement. It had been a long time since he'd seen Ty truly happy. At the orphanage, the boy spent his days quiet, always worried about the possibility of them being separated. "It is, Ty. And you know what's best? It's warm in here." Marcus tested the softness of the hay. "It's going to be much more comfortable than those hard bunk beds at the orphanage." They arranged their things and went to the tap behind the barn. The water was cold, but it was comforting to wash their faces and hands after 3 days on the road. Ty tried to play with the splashes, and Marcus found himself laughing for real for the first time in weeks. When they returned to the barn, they found a tray at the entrance with fresh bread, cheese, warm milk, and 2 apples. Marcus looked toward the house, but saw no sign of Mr. Walter. "Look, Ty, real food." Marcus picked up a piece of bread and bit into it. The homemade flavor exploded in his mouth, making him remember something distant and good. "How long has it been since we ate something like this?" "Never," Ty replied, attacking the cheese hungrily. At the orphanage, it was always that tasteless food. They ate in silence, savoring every bite. When they finished, Marcus saved the crumbs in a plastic bag. Even while running, their mother had taught them to always clean up after eating. Night fell quickly, and with it came a biting cold, typical of winter in the Texas countryside. The boys wrapped themselves in their few clothes and snuggled between the hay bales, using their backpacks as pillows. "Mark," Ty whispered in the dark, "do you think our mom ever slept in this barn?" "I don't know, Ty, but I'm sure she'd be happy knowing we made it here." "Do you think she's watching us now?" Marcus swallowed the lump in his throat. It was a hard question for a 15-year-old boy to answer. "I think so. And she's proud of us for not giving up." Ty snuggled closer to his brother, and soon his breathing became regular, indicating he had fallen asleep. Marcus stayed awake for a long time, listening to the sounds of the sleeping farm. Owls hooted in the distance, and the wind swayed the trees with a comforting whisper. For the first time since they had left the orphanage, Marcus allowed himself to dream of a different future. Maybe they could convince Mr. Walter to let them stay. Maybe they could work on the farm in exchange for food and shelter. It was an impossible dream, but there, wrapped in the sweet smell of hay and his brother's calm breathing, it seemed almost real. The early morning brought a violent storm. Marcus woke to the sound of thunder and felt icy drops falling on his face. Looking up, he saw the barn roof had a leak right above them. "Ty, wake up," he whispered, shaking his brother's shoulder. "It's raining in here." Tyler opened his eyes, startled and still half asleep. "What is it, Mark?" "The roof is leaking. We'll have to move to another spot." They grabbed their backpacks and moved to the back of the barn, where there was a larger pile of hay. The rain beat hard on the roof, creating a deafening noise. Lightning illuminated the inside of the barn through the cracks in the wood. It was during one of these flashes that Marcus saw it. A ceiling beam was cracked, and with each strong gust of wind, it moved dangerously. Before he could warn Tyler, an especially loud clap of thunder caused the beam to break loose. "Tyler!" Marcus shouted, pushing his brother aside. The beam fell with a terrible crash, hitting the spot where they had been seconds before. But in his haste to push Tyler, Marcus couldn't dodge completely. The heavy wood struck his left leg, tearing a cry of pain from him. "Mark!" Tyler yelled, seeing his brother on the ground. "Are you hurt?" Marcus tried to move, but the pain in his leg was intense. When he looked down, he saw he was bleeding through his torn pants. "It's just a cut, Ty, don't worry," he lied, trying not to show how much it hurt. But Tyler wasn't foolish. He saw the blood, saw the paleness of his brother's face, and began to cry. "We need help, Mark. You're really hurt." No, Ty, we can't bother Mr. Walter. Bother Mr. He'll get angry and call the people from the orphanage. But you're bleeding. The argument was interrupted by the barn door swinging open violently. Walter appeared, soaked by the rain, holding a lantern. His stern expression changed instantly when he saw the scene. "What happened here?" he asked, rushing to them. "A beam fell," Tyler explained between sobs. "It hurt my brother's leg." Walter shone the lantern on Marcus's wound and whistled low. It was a deep cut that needed immediate care. "Can't treat this here," he murmured. "We're going to the house now." "Sir, you don't have to," Marcus protested, trying to get up. "It's just a scratch." "Shut your mouth, boy," Walter retorted firmly. "You think I'm going to let a child bleed in my barn?" He bent down and put Marcus's arm over his shoulders. "Tyler, grab your backpacks. Let's get out of this rain." Walter's house was larger than it seemed from the outside. The main room was spacious, with a lit fireplace that spread cozy warmth. The walls were decorated with old photographs and dark wood furniture that told the story of a prosperous family. Walter helped Marcus onto the sofa and went to fetch a first aid kit. Tyler stayed by his brother's side, holding his hand tightly. "This is going to sting a bit," Walter warned, starting to clean the wound carefully. His hands, rough from farm work, were surprisingly gentle in treating the injury. Marcus bit his lip to keep from crying out, but couldn't avoid a few tears. Tyler cried along, as he always did when his brother got hurt. "You were brave," Walter commented, applying antibiotic ointment. "You saved your brother. The beam could have fallen on his head." "It's my duty to protect Ty," Marcus murmured. "He only has me." "And you? Who protects you?" The question caught Marcus off guard. No one had ever asked him that before. He had always been the responsible one, the older brother, the one who took care of things. "I protect myself," he replied, trying to sound more mature than his 15 years. Walter stopped bandaging the leg and looked at Marcus with a strange expression. "You sound a lot like your father when you say that. David also thought he had to carry the world on his shoulders." "You knew our father." "I did." Walter went back to focusing on the bandage. "David worked for me for 2 years. He was a good man. Stubborn, but good." Tyler approached, curious. "What was he like, Mr. Walter?" Walter finished the bandaging and sat in a nearby armchair. For a moment his eyes grew distant, as if seeing ghosts from the past. "Your father was tall, strong, with hands that knew how to work the land. He loved his wife more than anything in the world. And when you were born—" Walter stopped, swallowing hard. He was over the moon with happiness. "Why did they leave?" Marcus asked. "Marcus." Walter's expression closed off again. "Because I was a bitter man who didn't know how to appreciate what I had. And now you'd better get some sleep. We'll talk tomorrow." He showed them a small but comfortable room with 2 single beds and a heater. It was infinitely better than the barn, and Marcus mentally thanked the storm that had brought them there. "Good night, boys," Walter said from the doorway. "If you need anything, my room is at the end of the hall." After the man left, Tyler snuggled into his bed and looked at Marcus. "He's not as mean as he seemed at first, right?" "No," Marcus agreed, settling in carefully so as not to hurt his leg. "I think he's just very lonely. Like we were at the orphanage. Yeah, like us." The next morning, Marcus woke to the smell of fresh coffee and baking bread. His leg still hurt, but not as much as the night before. He found Tyler in the kitchen, sitting at the solid wood table, eating scrambled eggs and talking animatedly with Walter. "Good morning, Mark," Tyler waved. "Mr. Walter made breakfast for us." "Good morning," Marcus greeted somewhat awkwardly. "Thank you for the food, sir, and for taking care of my injury yesterday." Walter nodded, serving a plate for Marcus. "How's the leg?" "Better. You know a lot about injuries. When you live alone on a ranch, you learn to take care of yourself, and the animals too." Marcus ate slowly, savoring fresh eggs like he hadn't tasted in years. Tyler was talking about the animals at the orphanage, and for the first time Walter was genuinely smiling. "Ty," Marcus gently interrupted, "we shouldn't bother Mr. Walter for too long. He must have work to do." Tyler's smile vanished immediately, and he looked down at his plate sadly. "Yeah, we understand." Walter watched the change in the boy's demeanor and felt something strange in his chest. It was a feeling he hadn't experienced in 15 years, the desire not to be alone. "Where will you go?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "We don't know yet," Marcus admitted, "but we'll figure something out. Do you know how hard it is to survive on the streets, especially with that injured leg?" Marcus swallowed dryly. He knew Walter was right, but he had no choice. "We'll be okay, we always are." Walter was silent for a long moment, stirring his coffee without drinking it. Finally, he took a deep breath. "There's a lot of work to do on a ranch, especially for someone my age." "Are you offering work?" Marcus asked, not believing what he was hearing. "I'm saying that maybe it would be good to have some help. Temporarily, of course." Tyler jumped from his chair, excited. "Really, Mr. Walter, we can stay?" "Temporarily," Walter repeated firmly. "Until you find another place. And with conditions." "Any conditions," Marcus agreed quickly. "We'll accept anything. First, you work. No lazing about. Second, you respect the house rules. Third, no stories about the past. And fourth," he hesitated, "if anyone comes looking for you, I know nothing." Marcus felt his eyes well up. It was more than he had ever dreamed of. "Thank you, Mr. Walter. We promise not to disappoint." "We'll see," Walter murmured, but Marcus noticed a different glint in his eyes. The first days on the farm established a strange but comfortable routine. Marcus, even with his injured leg, insisted on helping with light chores like feeding the chickens and organizing tools. Tyler followed Walter everywhere, fascinated with every aspect of rural life. "Mr. Walter, why do the chickens make that noise?" Tyler would ask, imitating the animals clucking. "They're talking," Walter explained with infinite patience. "Each sound means something different." "And you understand what they're saying?" "A bit. After so many years taking care of them, you learn." Marcus watched these interactions with a warm heart. Tyler had never had a father figure, and he was clearly becoming attached to Walter. The man, in turn, seemed to be getting used to the company after years of solitude. One afternoon, as Marcus rested his leg on the porch, Walter sat beside him. "You worry a lot about your brother," the old man commented. "He's all I have left of our family. And you, Marcus? When do you think of yourself?" Marcus was surprised by the question. "I don't understand, sir." "You're 15. You should be thinking about dating, dreams, what you want to be when you grow up, but you only think about protecting Tyler." "It's my responsibility." "No. It's an adult's responsibility. You're still a child, too." Marcus fell quiet, processing the words. No one had ever acknowledged that he was also just a child carrying a burden too heavy. "What happened to your parents?" Walter asked gently. "Car accident when I was 8. Tyler was just a baby. We had no relatives, so we went to the orphanage." Walter clenched his fists. "And you've looked after him ever since?" "I tried. But at the orphanage they always threatened to separate us. They said Tyler needed a family that wanted babies, and I was too old for easy adoption. That's why you ran away." "Yes, I couldn't let them split us up." Walter looked at Tyler, who was playing with a kitten in the yard. The boy laughed freely, a sound he probably hadn't made in a long time. "Your brother is happy here," he observed. "He is, and I am too." Marcus hesitated. "Mr. Walter, can I ask you something?" "You may. Do you have family?" Walter's expression closed off immediately. "I did." "What happened?" Walter was silent for so long that Marcus thought he wouldn't answer. Finally, the man sighed. "I lost them all in an accident 15 years ago. My wife, my son, my daughter-in-law, and my little granddaughter, too." Marcus felt his heart tighten. "I'm so sorry. It was after that I fired your parents. I was angry at everything and everyone, especially at happy families like yours." "Is that why they left?" "Yes. And I've regretted it every day since then." They sat in silence, each lost in their own painful memories. Finally, Tyler ran up to them, holding the kitten. "Look how cute," he exclaimed. "Can I name him?" "You may," Walter replied, and Marcus noticed his voice was softer than usual. What will you call him? Happy, because he makes me happy. Walter smiled sadly. Happy is a good name. That night, after Tyler fell asleep, Marcus stayed in the living room with Walter. The man was reading an old newspaper by the light of the fireplace, and Marcus was organizing his few clothes. "Marcus," Walter said suddenly, "do you read well?" "Yes, sir. I've always liked studying. And sums. Those too." "Why?" Walter folded the newspaper and looked at the boy. "This farm has a lot of paperwork. Accounts, contracts, things a man my age has trouble organizing. If you want to earn some extra money—" "Really?" Marcus perked up. "I'd love to help. It's serious work. No messing around. You can trust me, Mr. Walter. We'll see." The following week, Marcus found himself immersed in the farm's papers. Walter was right. There were years of disorganized documents, overdue accounts, and lost contracts. But for Marcus, who had always had a knack for numbers, it was like putting together a giant puzzle. "Mr. Walter," he called one afternoon, "did you know you're entitled to a government subsidy for small rural producers?" "How so?" "I found some papers here about a support program. You fit the profile, but you never applied for the benefit." Walter approached, curious. For years he hadn't been interested in financial matters, living on just the bare minimum. "How much would it be?" "Calculating here, about 3,000 reais a month. And since you never applied, you're entitled to the back payments for the last 5 years. Walter sat down heavily in his chair. It was a considerable sum, one that could transform the farm. "Are you sure about this?" "I am. I can organize the papers for you to apply if you want." For the first time in 15 years, Walter began to think about the future instead of just surviving the present. With that money, he could renovate the house, buy new equipment, maybe even expand the livestock. "Do the paperwork," he decided. "And Marcus?" "Yes, sir?" "Thank you. I don't know how to repay you." "You've already repaid us by giving us a home." Walter felt something strange in his chest. For 15 years, he hadn't heard someone call his house a home. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. The weeks passed quickly, and the farm's routine settled in naturally. Tyler woke up early to help Walter with the animals, while Marcus handled the paperwork and lighter chores. At night, the three would have dinner together and talk about the day. It was during one of these conversations that Tyler asked an innocent question that would change everything. "Mr. Walter, where are the pictures of your family?" Walter almost choked on his food. "What do you mean?" "There are several empty frames around the house, and I saw some photos stored in a living room drawer. Why don't you put them in the frames?" Marcus nudged his brother, trying to make him stop. But Tyler, with the natural curiosity of children, continued. "It was just to make the house cheerier. The photos are nice." Walter was silent for a long moment. Then he got up from the table and went to the drawer Tyler had mentioned. He returned with a stack of old photographs. "These are pictures of my family," he said, his voice choked. "I put them away after they were gone." Tyler carefully picked up a photo. It showed a beautiful middle-aged woman, a young man, and a little girl of about 5, all smiling on the farmhouse porch. "They look happy," Tyler commented. "They were. We were," Walter corrected, tears welling in his eyes. Marcus picked up another photo, this one showing a younger Walter hugging his wife. They were the same age his parents would have been if they were still alive. "What were their names?" he asked softly. "My wife's name was Helen, my son, Edward, and my little granddaughter was Laura." Walter's voice trembled. "Laura was 5 when it happened." Tyler approached and, with the naturalness only children possess, hugged Walter. "It must be very hard to be without them." "Yes," Walter whispered, returning the hug. "It's very hard. But now you have us," Tyler said simply. "We can be your temporary family." Marcus felt his eyes well up watching the scene. Tyler, who had lost his own parents so early, was offering comfort to Walter with the innocent wisdom of a child. "Would you like that?" Walter asked, looking at Tyler. "I'd like that very much. You're like a grandpa to me." Walter looked at Marcus, who nodded in agreement. And you, Marcus. It would be an honor to be part of your family, Mr. Walter, even if temporarily. That night, they put some photos back in the frames. The house immediately seemed more alive, fuller of memories and love. You know, Walter commented, adjusting a photo of Helen on the living room side table. I think they were put away for too long. It's time for them to come home. Like us, Tyler observed. We were also put away for too long at the orphanage, but now we're home. Walter smiled, an expression Marcus hadn't seen in weeks. Yes, Tyler. Now you're home. The following days brought a sense of normalcy that none of the three had experienced in a long time. Walter taught Tyler about plants and animals, while Marcus organized the farm's business with surprising efficiency. It was Marcus who noticed first the cars parking at the entrance to the property on a Thursday afternoon, 3 official vehicles with formally dressed people getting out and looking at the house. Mr. Walter, he called, running to the barn where the man was fixing a fence. There are people arriving. Walter looked toward the house and stiffened. Government officials, probably about the subsidy. Or maybe, Marcus swallowed hard, maybe it's about us. They returned to the house together, Tyler running behind with Happy in his arms. A well-dressed middle-aged woman waited on the porch with a document folder. Mr. Harrison, she asked. I'm Dr. Jennifer Wilson from the Regional Social Services Department. I'd like to ask a few questions. About what? Walter asked, instinctively stepping in front of the boys. We received a report that there are missing minors residing on your property. Marcus felt his world collapse. Tyler hid behind him, trembling. I don't know what you're talking about, Walter replied firmly. Mr. Harrison, lying to authorities is a serious crime. The social worker looked at Marcus and Tyler. Are you Marcus and Tyler Mitchell? Marcus took a deep breath. There was no use lying now. We are. You ran away from St. Michael's Orphanage 3 weeks ago. Your legal guardian, Sister Margaret, is very worried. We don't want to go back, Tyler said in a small but firm voice. This is our home now. The social worker sighed. Children, understand there are legal procedures. You can't simply decide where to live. And why not? Walter interrupted. They are well cared for, well fed, have a roof over their heads. You don't have legal guardianship of them. Furthermore, Mr. Harrison, our records show you've lived alone for 15 years. You have no experience with children. I have more experience than you imagine, Walter retorted, his voice gaining strength. And these children have found here something they clearly didn't have at the orphanage, which would be a real home. The social worker looked around, noticing the improvements that had been made to the house in recent weeks. There were flowers planted by Tyler on the porch, clean curtains in the windows, and a general air of care and love. The children do seem well cared for, she admitted reluctantly, but the law is clear. They need to return to official custody. What if I apply for legal guardianship? Walter asked suddenly. Everyone looked at him in shock. Marcus felt his heart race. It would be a long and complex process, the social worker explained. You would need to undergo psychological, socio-economic and criminal background evaluations. I am willing to go through all of that. Mr. Walter, Marcus whispered, tears streaming down his face. Additionally, the social worker continued, the children need to be in official custody during the process. They cannot stay here. How long would the process take? Walter asked. From 6 months to 2 years. Tyler began to cry. 2 years? We'll have to be apart that long? Not necessarily apart, the social worker softened. But you would have to return to official guardianship. Walter knelt in front of Tyler and took his little hands. Listen here, champ. If I start this process, do you promise me you'll be brave and hold on tight until I get guardianship? Do you promise you'll come get us? Tyler asked between sobs. I promise with all my heart. Marcus approached. Mr. Walter, are you sure? It's a lot of money, a lot of time. Marcus, in 3 weeks you two gave me back something I thought I had lost forever. What? A reason to live. The social worker watched the scene with teary eyes. The genuine affection between the man and the children was evident. Mr. Harrison, she finally said, I'll give you 48 hours to formalize the guardianship application. If you can file all the documentation within that time, the children can remain under your temporary guardianship during the process." "Really?" Marcus asked, hardly believing it. "It's not common, but the circumstances are special, and clearly the children are better off here than they were before." Walter stood up and extended his hand to the social worker. "Thank you, Doctor. You won't regret this." "I hope not, Mr. Harrison. I'll be back in 48 hours to collect the documentation." After she left, the three of them stood on the porch trying to process what had happened. "Mr. Walter," Marcus finally said, "are you sure about this? Adopting 2 children is no small thing." "Marcus, I haven't been sure of anything for 15 years. But today, for the first time since the tragedy, I know exactly what I need to do." "What if it doesn't work?" Tyler asked, still scared. Walter knelt in front of him again. "It will work, Tyler, because sometimes the right people find each other exactly when they need each other most. Like how we found each other, exactly like you found me." That night, Walter called a lawyer from Austin who had done work for the ranch years before. The process would be complicated, but not impossible. "I need all the documentation in 48 hours, Walter explained on the phone. "Money is not a problem." Marcus and Tyler listened from the living room, clinging to each other on the sofa. "Mark," Tyler whispered, "do you think it'll work?" "I don't know, Ty, but for the first time in my life I have hope." The next 48 hours were a whirlwind of activity. The lawyer came to the ranch with a team, preparing documents, taking photographs of the house, interviewing Walter about his motivations and financial conditions. Marcus helped by organizing papers and translating the legal language for Tyler, who was anxious and didn't understand much of what was happening. "Basically," Marcus explained, "they want to make sure Mr. Walter can take proper care of us." "But he already does," Tyler replied as if it were obvious. "I know, but the government needs papers to prove it. On the morning of the deadline, the social worker returned as promised." Walter received her with a thick folder of perfectly organized documents. "Impressive," she murmured, flipping through the papers. "You really did all this in 2 days." "When something is important to you, Doctor, you find a way." She analyzed the documentation carefully. There were certificates, medical reports, proof of income, character references, house floor plans, and even a detailed educational plan that Walter had prepared for the boys. "Everything seems to be in order," she finally admitted. "The custody process can officially begin, and the children can remain under your temporary guardianship." Tyler shouted with joy and jumped into Walter's arms. Marcus smiled more broadly than Walter had ever seen. "There is just one condition," the social worker added. "Monthly supervision visits, and the children need to be enrolled in the local school district." "No problem," Walter agreed. "I've already researched the local schools." "Then it's decided." She extended her hand. "Good luck, Mr. Harrison. I hope everything goes well." After she left, the three of them hugged on the porch, laughing and crying at the same time. "We did it," Marcus murmured. "We really did it." "Not yet," Walter reminded them. "The process will still take time. But we got the hardest part, permission to try to be a family." "We already are a family," Tyler declared with conviction. "The papers will just confirm what we already know." Walter smiled, looking at the 2 boys who had transformed his life. Tyler was right. They were already a family, and no matter what lay ahead, they would face it together. The following months established an even more solid routine. Tyler and Marcus were enrolled in the local rural school, where they quickly stood out. Tyler for his captivating personality, and Marcus for his intelligence and responsibility. Walter proved to be a surprisingly dedicated father. He drove the boys to school every morning and picked them up every afternoon, helped with homework and attended every parent-teacher meeting. "I never thought I'd be a father again at 65, he commented one night, while helping Tyler with a math problem. "You're a much better father than we could have imagined," Marcus replied, studying for a history test. The first supervision visit was a success. The social worker was impressed with the children's progress in school and the overall transformation in their personalities. "Tyler is more confident, more social," she noted in her report. Marcus has kept his grades high but seems less anxious, more relaxed. "And how are you feeling about fatherhood, Mr. Harrison?" she asked Walter. "Like I've woken up from a bad dream that lasted 15 years, he answered without hesitation. The government subsidy finally came through, bringing a considerable amount of back pay. Walter invested some in renovating the house and some in a savings account for the boy's education. "I want you to have every opportunity I can give," he explained, showing the bank statements to Marcus. "If you want to go to university, you'll be able to." "Mr. Walter—" Marcus was speechless. No one had ever invested so much in his future. "And what if I want to keep working on the farm?" Tyler asked. "I like it here. I like the animals and the plants." Walter smiled. "Then you'll be the best farmer this region has ever seen. We'll study modern agriculture, sustainable techniques." The seasons passed, bringing subtle but important changes. Marcus grew a few inches and his voice began to change. Tyler lost 2 baby teeth and gained an impressive skill for handling the farm animals. Walter changed too. His hair was still white, but his eyes shone with new life. He laughed often and had gained healthy weight after years of eating only the basics to survive. Their first Christmas together was magical. They cut down a tree right on the farm's own land and decorated it with ornaments handmade by Tyler. Marcus made practical but heartfelt gifts. He organized all of Walter's old photographs into chronological albums. "Now the memories of your first family are organized," he explained, handing over the albums. "And we can start new albums with our new family." Walter cried openly, unashamed of his tears. "Thank you, Marcus. It's the most precious gift I've ever received." Tyler got a real dog, besides the cat Happy, and Marcus got a bicycle to go to school whenever he wanted. "Mr. Walter," Tyler said on Christmas morning, "can I call you Grandpa?" Walter stopped chewing the homemade panettone they had made together. "You would like to call me that? I'd like that very much. I never had a grandpa. And I never had a real grandson. Laura was too little when—" He stopped, took a deep breath. "It would be an honor to be your grandpa, Tyler." Marcus smiled, seeing the genuine happiness on his brother's face. "Can I call you Grandpa too?" "Of course you can. You are both my grandsons now." From that day on, Grandpa Walter became the natural name. The kids at school thought it was odd at first. After all, Walter was clearly much older than most of their grandparents, but they soon got used to it. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Spring brought unexpected changes. During a routine supervision visit, the social worker brought news nobody was expecting. "There is a family interested in adopting Tyler," she announced in the kitchen as they were having coffee. The silence that followed was deafening. Tyler dropped the cookie he was eating and looked at Marcus in panic. "But we're in the custody process with Grandpa Walter," Marcus protested. "And that could still take many months. This family already has all their documentation approved. They could take Tyler next week." "I don't want to go," Tyler said, his voice trembling. "I want to stay here with my family." "Tyler, they are a young family with excellent financial resources. They live in a big city. You'd have access to better schools, activities." "I don't want a better school. I want to stay here." Walter, who had listened to everything in silence, finally spoke. "Dr. Jennifer, what is the exact legal situation? Since your custody process is not yet finalized, technically the children are still under state guardianship. If this family makes a formal request, they would have priority." "Why?" "Because they are younger, have previous experience with a successful adoption, and can offer opportunities that a person your age might not be able to." Marcus felt anger growing in his chest. "With all due respect, Doctor, but no one knows Tyler better than me and Grandpa Walter. He doesn't need material opportunities. He needs love and stability." "And they can't offer that?" the social worker asked. "Maybe they can, but he already has it here." Tyler began to cry. "Mark, they can't take me, can they? You promised you'd never let them separate us." Marcus looked at Walter in desperation. The man was pale, but his hands weren't shaking. "Dr. Jennifer," Walter said in a firm voice, "how much time do we have before this family makes the official request?" They want an answer by the end of the week. Then we have 5 days to speed up our custody process. Mr. Harrison, that's not how it works. There are legal deadlines, procedures, and there is also the child's emotional well-being. Tyler is clearly distressed by the possibility of separation. Shouldn't that be taken into consideration? The social worker sighed. She had seen many families over the years, but she had rarely seen a bond as genuine as the one she observed in that kitchen. I can try to speak with my superiors about delaying the decision until your process is more advanced. Please, Tyler begged. I promise to be the best boy in the world if they let me stay. You already are the best boy in the world, Walter said, pulling Tyler into a hug, and we're going to fight for you to stay where you belong. The following week was agonizing. Walter hired a second lawyer, an adoption specialist, to speed up the process. Marcus could barely concentrate at school, worried about the possibility of losing his brother. Tyler stuck to Walter the entire time, as if his physical presence could prevent them from taking him away. "Grandpa," he asked one night, "if I leave, will you forget me?" "Tyler Mitchell Harrison," Walter said firmly. He had informally added Harrison to the boys' names. "It would be impossible to forget you. You are etched in my heart forever. Even if I can't come back, even then, but you will come back, because this is your home and family doesn't separate easily." Marcus listened from the bedroom door, his heart breaking at his brother's distress. That night, he made a decision that would change everything. The next morning, Marcus woke up before everyone else and wrote a letter. It was for the family that wanted to adopt Tyler, explaining their story, the bond they had with Walter, and begging them to reconsider. He handed the letter personally at school to the social worker, along with photos of their life on the farm and drawings Tyler had made of his family. "Please," he asked, "just show this to them before they make a final decision." 3 days later, the social worker returned to the farm with an expression Marcus couldn't decipher. "I received a call from the family interested in Tyler," she announced. Everyone stopped breathing. "They have withdrawn their adoption petition," Tyler shouted with joy and jumped into Walter's lap. Marcus felt his legs go weak with relief. "Why?" Walter asked. "They said that after reading Marcus's letter and seeing the photos, they realized Tyler already has a family, and that it would be cruel to separate you." "Really?" Marcus could hardly believe his plan had worked. More than that, they offered a significant donation to help with the house renovations as a way to support what you are building here. Walter stood up and hugged Marcus tightly. "You saved our family." "We save each other," Marcus replied. "That's how families work." With the threat of separation gone, life on the farm returned to normal, but with an even stronger feeling of unity. They had passed their first major test as a family and emerged victorious. The official guardianship process continued its course, but now without the pressure of competing with other families. The monthly visits became increasingly positive, with glowing reports about the children's development. Tyler became a minor celebrity at school for his skill with animals. He was often invited to give presentations about rural life and sustainability. Marcus excelled so much academically that he was invited to participate in a student exchange program with an agricultural university. He refused, saying he didn't want to be away from the family, but Walter encouraged him. "Education is the one thing no one can take from you," Walter said, "and it's only a few weeks during the summer break. But what if something happens while I'm away? Tyler and I will be fine, and you'll come back with knowledge that can help the farm grow even more." Reluctantly, Marcus agreed to participate in the program. Those were the first weeks the brothers had spent apart since they had met, and it was difficult for both of them. Tyler sent letters almost daily, telling about new animal babies and Happy's mischief. Marcus responded with pictures from the program and promises that he would be back soon. Walter discovered that being a single parent, even temporarily, was a bigger challenge than he had expected. Tyler, without his brother's reassuring presence, became more clingy and needed constant attention. "Grandpa, do you think Mark likes it there more than here?" Tyler asked one night, after a quick call with Marcus. "I'm sure he doesn't. He's learning new things, but his heart is here with us." "How do you know?" "Because when you truly love someone, no place is better than the place where that person is." When Marcus returned from the exchange program 3 weeks later, Tyler almost knocked him over with the force of his hug. "Mark, I missed you so much. Happy had kittens, Grandpa planted a new garden, and I learned how to make bread." Marcus laughed, hugging his brother tightly. "I missed you too, Ty. So much." "So?" Walter asked, hugging Marcus as well. "Was it worth it?" "It was. I learned a lot about sustainable agriculture. I think I can implement some ideas here on the farm." "What kind of ideas?" Marcus spent the rest of the day talking about permaculture techniques, eco-friendly irrigation systems, and crop rotation methods that could increase the land's productivity. Walter listened, fascinated. The 15-year-old boy was speaking with the authority of an experienced agricultural engineer. "Are you sure you want to use these techniques here?" Walter asked. "It would be a big investment." "I'm sure, and in the long run it will save money and be better for the environment." "Then let's do it. Can you prepare a detailed plan?" Marcus smiled. "I already started on the bus ride home." Autumn brought good news. The custody process was in its final stage. Walter would be officially recognized as the boy's legal guardian in a matter of weeks. "Are you sure you want this?" he asked one night as they signed the final documents. "Once this is finalized, you'll be stuck with a stubborn old man for the rest of your lives." "We choose to be stuck," Marcus replied, smiling, "because we chose you as our family." "And you, Tyler, are you sure too?" Tyler, now 9 years old, and much more confident than the scared boy who had arrived at the farm, answered without hesitation. "Grandpa, you gave me the first real home I ever had. Of course I'm sure." The final custody hearing was a formality. The judge, impressed by the positive reports and the clear bond between Walter and the children, approved the petition without reservation. "Congratulations, Mr. Harrison," he said, banging the gavel. "Officially, Marcus Mitchell Harrison and Tyler Mitchell Harrison are under your permanent legal guardianship." Outside the courthouse, the three hugged in the light autumn rain. Marcus, now 16, cried openly. Tyler danced with joy. Walter just smiled, feeling he had finally found peace. "And now?" Tyler asked in the car on the way home. "Now we live," Walter answered, "like a normal family." "We were never normal," Marcus observed, laughing. "You're right. We're better than normal. We're special." The following winter was the happiest any of them could remember. The house was always full of life, with Tyler's school friends coming over to play, Marcus leading projects on the farm, and Walter discovering the joy of being a late-in-life grandfather. The renovations planned by Marcus were underway, transforming the property into a model of rural sustainability. Visitors began to appear, interested in learning about the techniques they were implementing. "I think we should open for educational tours," Marcus suggested one afternoon, watching a group of university students photographing the organic garden. "It would be a lot of work," Walter pondered, "but it would be an extra source of income. And Tyler loves showing the animals to people." Tyler, who had overheard the conversation, ran up to them. "Can I be the official animal guide?" Walter laughed. "Yes, you can, champ. You're the one who understands them best here." And so another dimension was born for the farm, educational rural tourism. Tyler became a famous junior guide in the region, enchanting visitors with his knowledge of animals and his captivating personality. Marcus developed workshops on sustainable agriculture, discovering he had a natural talent for teaching. Walter, who had spent 15 years avoiding human contact, found himself hosting groups of people every week, happy to show how the farm had transformed. "Who would have thought I'd become a tourist attraction at 67, he remarked, watching a visitor bus park at the entrance. "You've always been special," Marcus replied. "You just needed a reason to show it to the world." In the spring, 2 years after the boys' arrival, the farm was unrecognizable. Where there were once only poorly kept fields, there were now organized gardens, thriving vegetable patches, and solar energy systems that Marcus had designed. The house had been expanded with larger bedrooms for the boys and a big room to receive visitors. There were photos everywhere, some old ones of Walter's first family, others new of the second family he had built. "Grandpa," Tyler asked one afternoon while feeding the pigs, "do you think your first family would be happy seeing how the farm is today?" Walter stopped fixing a fence and looked around. The trees were in bloom. The animals were grazing happily, and he could hear Marcus explaining composting to a group of visitors. "I'm sure they would," he answered. "Helen would love to see children running through the house again. Edward would be proud of the improvements Marcus implemented. And Laura?" His voice faltered for a moment. Laura would have loved having younger brothers to play with. "Do you think they know about us?" "I think so, Tyler. And I think they're happy because we found each other." The following summer, Marcus graduated high school as the class valedictorian. His speech was about second chances and unconventional families, leaving half the audience in tears. "3 years ago," he said at the microphone, "my brother and I were just 2 orphans with no future. Today we are the sons of an extraordinary man who taught us that family isn't about blood, but about choice and love." Walter in the audience cried without hiding it. Tyler, sitting beside him, held his hand proudly. After graduation, Marcus had several offers from universities, some with full scholarships. To everyone's surprise, he chose a state agricultural university that was only 2 hours from the farm. "Why didn't you accept the scholarship to the Federal University in Texas?" Walter asked. "It was an incredible opportunity." "Because I want to build my future close to my family," Marcus replied, "and I want to come home every weekend to see you. Marcus, you can't limit your opportunities because of us." "I'm not limiting anything. I'm choosing what's important to me." Tyler, now 11, was starting to excel in natural sciences at school. His teachers suggested he participate in regional competitions. "Can I compete, Grandpa?" he asked, showing the invitation to a biology Olympiad. "Of course you can. But are you sure you want to?" "I am. I want to show everyone how incredible nature is, just like you and Mark taught me." Tyler's first competition was a success. He won a bronze medal in the junior category and came home beaming. "Grandpa, they were impressed when I talked about our farm," he recounted, excited. "Several judges asked if they could visit to see our projects." "Of course they can. Our home is always open to people who want to learn." Autumn brought an unexpected surprise. The social worker, Dr. Jennifer, showed up for an unofficial visit. "I came here not as a government employee," she explained, "but as someone who has followed your journey and been impressed." "What can I do for you?" Walter asked. "Actually, I came to ask if you would like to participate in a documentary about successful, unconventional families." Marcus and Tyler looked at Walter, waiting for his answer. "What would be the goal?" he asked. "To show that age is not a barrier to adoption, that sometimes the right family is found in the most unexpected places. Your story could inspire other people." "And would it help other kids like us?" Tyler asked. "It could help, yes." "Then I accept," Walter decided. "If our story can give hope to other orphaned children, it's worth sharing." The documentary was filmed over several weeks, showing the family's routine, the farm projects, and individual interviews with each of them. The most emotional part was when they asked each one to explain what family meant to them. Tyler, always direct, said, "Family means you're never alone, even when things get tough." Marcus was more elaborate. "Family means having people who believe in you, even when you don't believe in yourself." Walter took longer to answer. "Family means having a reason to wake up every day with joy instead of just surviving." The documentary aired on a national network and generated unexpected repercussions. Hundreds of people got in touch, some interested in late adoption, others wanting to visit the farm. "It's become crazy," Marcus commented, watching the activity on the property. "But a good crazy," Walter agreed, watching Tyler explain how the compost bin worked to a group of visitors. The boy had become a little sustainability expert, with knowledge that impressed even adults. "You know what makes me happiest?" Walter asked. "Seeing that you two are confident, sure of yourselves. It's very different from the scared boys I met 3 years ago." "We just needed someone to believe in us," Marcus replied, "and you gave me a second chance to be useful in the world." The following winter marked 3 full years since the boys arrived at the farm. To celebrate, they organized a big party, inviting all the friends they had made along this journey. The social worker came, along with colleagues from the department. The lawyer who had helped with the custody brought his family, teachers from the school, neighbors from the area, and even some families who had been inspired by their story to adopt older children. 3 years ago, Walter said to the guests, raising a glass of juice, 2 brave boys gave me the most precious gift a person can receive, a second chance to love and be loved. Tyler and Marcus moved closer to him, one on each side. And today, Walter continued, we have not just a family but an entire community that believes in the transformative power of unconditional love. The applause echoed across the property, mixing with the sound of the animals and the wind in the trees. That night, after everyone had left, the 3 of them sat on the porch as they did every night, watching the stars. "Grandpa," Tyler asked, "do you ever regret letting us stay?" "Tyler Mitchell Harrison," Walter answered firmly. "Letting you boys stay was the best decision I ever made in my whole life." "Even with all the trouble we caused?" "Especially because of the trouble you caused. You reminded me how good it feels to be alive." Marcus, now 18 and about to start university, smiled watching the scene. Tyler, nearly 12, was growing up strong and confident. Walter, at 69, seemed younger and happier than many men half his age. "You know what I love most about this story?" Marcus said. "It's that we saved each other. It wasn't just Grandpa who saved us, or just us who saved him. It was everybody saving everybody." "That's how families work," Tyler observed with the simple wisdom that had always characterized him. "Yes, it is," Walter agreed, pulling both grandsons closer. "That's exactly how families work." Years passed, and the story of the Harrison farm became legend in the region. Marcus graduated with a degree in agricultural engineering and returned home, transforming the property into a center of excellence for sustainable farming. Tyler followed the path of biological sciences, specializing in rural veterinary medicine. He opened a clinic on the farm itself, serving not only the area's animals but also acting as a research center. Walter, now in his 80s, remained active in the overall supervision of the property, but had learned to delegate the heavier tasks to his sons. He became a respected figure in the community, often consulted on rural and family matters. The farm that was once just an isolated property was now a thriving complex: agricultural research center, veterinary clinic, rural inn and sustainability school. "Who would have thought 3 lonely people could build all this?" Walter remarked one afternoon, watching the green fields stretching to the horizon. "We were never alone," Marcus replied, now 25 and married to a veterinarian he met in university. "We always had each other." Tyler, at 19, was engaged to a teacher from the local school who shared his passion for environmental education. "And now our family is growing again," he said, referring to their future wives. "It'll be nice to have sisters for the first time." "Are you sure you want to keep living here after you're married?" Walter asked. "I know the tradition is for children to leave their parents' home." "Grandpa," Marcus interrupted, "this farm is big enough for many generations, and our children will grow up here, learning about family and hard work just like we did." "Our children?" Walter asked, his eyes shining. "Of course. You didn't think you'd escape being a great-grandfather, did you?" Walter laughed loudly, a sound that echoed across the fields and startled some birds. Great-grandfather, at 85. Who would have thought? And so the story of the Harrison farm continued. A story that began with 2 lost boys on a dirt road and a lonely man on an isolated property, but that became a legend of love, perseverance, and second chances. Because sometimes the best families aren't the ones we're born into, but the ones we choose to build. And sometimes home isn't where we start our journey, but where we decide it makes sense. The farm that was once just land and loneliness now pulsed with life, love, and hope. And at the center of it all were 3 people who proved it's never too late for a second chance at happiness. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of the story and where you're watching from. If you have something to share with us, leave it in the comments with sincere words. Do you believe Marcus made the right decisions to protect his family? We'd love to read your opinion. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other thrilling stories.